Welcome Aquarius, your in-depth year 2025 astrology forecast for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. First of all, I'm going to briefly outline how I'm going to structure the video. I'm going to look at two eclipses towards the end of 2024, which will be influential in the early months of the new year. I'm then going to share on screen your solar return right at the start of year 2025. That provides a backdrop for the whole 12 months. I'm going to take particular note of your two rulers, Saturn traditional and Uranus, your modern ruler too. But also, as the year begins, Mars is in a very powerful location in this chart, in an opposition with Pluto in your sign. That's going to amp up your desire this year, particularly around relationships or how you connect to the wider world. But Mars is going to be inverting on the 6th of January into an area which is great if you want to see through those New Year's resolutions. So I'll unpack that for you. We're also going to see a switch of the nodal axis on the 11th of January. This is probably the most important point of the whole year. It's not been here for 17 years. And after the attentions of Neptune since 212 and Saturn since March 2023 in this part of your situation, the North Node is going to bring an opportunity to make sense of all that time and all the experiences that you've had. Now, early in the new year, we are going to see Uranus on the 30th, your modern ruler, go direct. Also Jupiter, the planet of opportunity, that goes direct early in February. You have a stunning new moon on the 29th of January that I need to share with you. Really exciting. There's a lot of pulse around your quick communications in the early months of the year, but also the potential for some tangles. And in ensuring that your resources are balancing up in terms of the ins and outs really comes into focus with the second of two lunar eclipses across the signs of Pisces and Virgo mid-March. Then at the end of March, a stunning solar eclipse, but Neptune moves into your third house. It's going to be joined by Saturn on the 25th of May. From the end of May through to the end of August, they're together, but they link back to Pluto in your sign. Of course, you will have heard that Uranus is going to be heading into Gemini for 4 months from the 7th of July, but before then, Jupiter, the planet of growth, makes its way into a sign that it loves being in, Cancer, where it's exalted. What does that mean? Because actually Jupiter is going to be challenged by Saturn right at the heart of June. I need to share that with you. We've got a tangle possible in July and August with a Mercury retrograde in your relationship sector. But that brings us into the latter part of the year. There's so much going on, but of course Saturn to begin with, then Neptune and then Uranus are all going to return to their previous homes. We do have two very important eclipses in September, however, that I need to share with you. As the curtain comes down on this stunning year, there's certainly no lack of excitement. But you know, the big theme really is about what you value, how you feel about yourself, balancing the ins and outs of your resources and seizing the opportunity to express yourself with great conviction and imagination, and that is possible. Please stay with me for more. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. If you're new to my channel, it's lovely to have your company. If you have any thoughts, please share them. This is very much a community. If you're a returning visitor, it's great to have your company once more, and all your views and interactions are truly appreciated. About 50% of people who enjoy my videos regularly are yet to subscribe. If that's you, please help the channel to thrive. Click that sub button and also the bell notification symbol. Please take advantage of my unique year 2025 personal horoscope forecast promotion. If you order in 24, you'll get the rest of that year free, but in my special package of 30% off, you also get your life roadmap report. This will help you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far, get a much more intimate understanding of how these have played out and how you can work with them future forwards. But with your forecast as well, it's a fantastic amount of information, it's great value, totally unique for each person it's produced for. Please see the link below for more. If you'd like to talk to me personally, I am a consulting astrologer. Please check out my testimonials below. I don't edit these, as they come in, I share as is. Relationships are incredibly important for us all. Whether we want one or not, we have one with ourselves, our neighbours, our friends, our family members and our colleagues. If you'd like your relationships to work better, but use the power of Western tropical astrology, check out matchful.me. This app combines serious astrology with psychological profiling. It's not based on sun sign analysis. You can enjoy it by clicking on the link below, and if you type in Patrick in the coupon form, you'll also get an additional discount. So Aquarius, on the 18th of September, the lunar eclipse, first in a new series, occurs in the sign of Pisces. Pisces has been dominated since 2012 by Neptune, the ruler, and Saturn since March 2023. There may have been times through Neptune's journey when you've been extremely compassionate and perhaps very generous with your resources. But Neptune can create distortion, and there may have been times when you haven't used money quite as astutely as you would have liked to have done. Over the last couple of years, Saturn has brought quite a cool wind. It's asking you to tighten up, be much more savvy about the whole approach to expenditure. And of course, we have seen the credit crunch, the cost of living crisis. So everyone collectively has been feeling a little bit of the pinch. But particularly for you, there may be something that has dried up that used to be a source of income. So that first lunar eclipse and its connection with Neptune could see you reflecting strongly in the latter part of 24 and as you go into 25 about some of the things you have spent your money on, or some of the things that, or the people you have believed in. And maybe there have been some brilliant causes that you've helped, and that's something to really celebrate, but also congratulate yourself about. But the second of the eclipses occurs in your sister air sign of Libra. Now, Libra is about balance, it's about equilibrium, it's about fairness, but it's also a cardinal sign, and for you it represents the 9th house, which is travel, expansion, independence, adventure, higher education. Trade can be to do with contracts, it can be to do with interacting with foreign destinations or people, but it's very close to Mercury. Mercury is a planet you have a great affinity to. It's exalted in your sign and also rules your second decan, the second 10 degrees of Aquarius. So that crisp energy of Mercury applying to that solar eclipse gives you a fabulous opportunity. If you want to be very positive in the last part of 24 and in the first quarter of 25, you can really surf a desire to be very enterprising, even buccaneering in your approach. But that energy of that lunar eclipse works with that solar eclipse. They're not the same series, but we need to balance the energy. So you can't be too frivolous with resources, otherwise you could end up spending money on things that aren't really going to give you value. And value is the key word of 2025 for Aquarius. Now, on the screen now, I'm showing your event chart right at the start of the year. As 2024 came to a close, there was a new moon in the sign of Capricorn. But 12th house new moons are not easy, to be honest. It can be a time of the year when you make that journey from the end of one year into the new year, when you can feel more reflective and a little quieter than some people might expect. But it's actually an opportunity to rejuvenate yourself, to get the rest. And you could be thinking a lot in the early part of the new year about the spiritual dimension and about perhaps healing. And you could also feel very nostalgic as well. But in a much more instant way, you do have Pluto in your sign opposite Mars in your sector of relating. And that aspect is just absolutely riven with determination, willpower, and desire. So if there is a goal that you have and you need to interact with people in order to fulfill that goal, that's going to give you an enormous amount of push. Now, I also want to share with you about Saturn, because it does start this year and end this year in the second house. So as much as the nodal axis moving on the 11th and the eclipse series being very much between the second and eighth houses of your chart, all about balance in the books, Saturn's saying you're going to have to be pretty canny when it comes to resources this year, particularly as it's in a square with Jupiter, the planet of enterprise and of fortune, in the part of your chart that is to do with speculation. So as you go into this new year, however determined Pluto in the opposition with Mars makes you, the psychological new moon that makes its way into this new year suggests you do need to be protective of your sensitivities. And if you are thinking of trying something different and new with resources, I really would make sure that you use the very diligent, exacting energies of Saturn to really test out any idea you have to destruction. And that may mean asking someone who's experienced, has a different perspective, may have the confidence to challenge your view. But also Mercury, the planet of communication, but also of marketing, is in an opposition with Jupiter, and they're both squaring back to Saturn. So when it comes to friendships, connections to others, the more flamboyant side of your nature can be amped up by Mercury and Jupiter in opposition, but they're both in signs that they're not at their best in. Just bear that in mind. And your cold, old-fashioned ruler, Saturn, is really asking you to be a little bit skeptical. And that skepticism could go all the way to people you meet socially or even romantically, but it is there to protect you. Now, Venus is in your sign. If you decide to give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover this year, it wouldn't be a surprise, particularly with Pluto there as well, because they're essentially in a semi-sextile, so they're in contact with one another. So some kind of transformation around you is very much in the works, a transformation which can see you in the moment. But people may be amazed at how you do shift your approach. But Venus is in a square with your modern ruler Uranus. So if you're thinking of doing something cosmetic to your home, refurnishing or repainting or remodeling, it's important, because Venus is about money as well as taste and our appreciation of the more refined parts of life, that again you're conscious of not splashing out on something for some kind of quick fix that doesn't necessarily change the paradigm. But it's also the case that if you are in a relationship of any kind, if you're attracted to someone, it's got to work for you in terms of that free-spirited part of your nature. So romance through Saturn, your traditional ruler, challenging Jupiter. Sociability by Saturn challenging Mercury in your 11th house of play. And Venus in your sign being challenged by your modern ruler of Uranus suggests that home, emotional and family issues probably are going to take priority for you, even though you may have some admirers this year with Mars opposite Pluto and Venus in your own sign, because your own unique, inimitable style is definitely going to draw some attention to you. The good news, however, is that although the North Node is about to retreat into Pisces, at the very start of the year, it forges an ace link to Pluto and an ace link to Mars. Listen to your instincts, particularly when you're having conversations. Decode what people are saying, but if you take it back to your senses, that's going to be very helpful to you. So your willpower is going to be very strong this year, but I think it is a year to be cautious with resources. Try to make sure the ins and outs are balancing up, and keep expanding that inner world that can grow from that amazing new moon in your 12th house as you go into the new year. But if there is a singular mission that you're really dedicated to, that Pluto opposition to Mars and the link to the North Node can really see you go towards that target. Now, on the 6th of January, Mars, which starts the year in that retrograde in the ground Leo, reverts into the sign of Cancer. Ring a bell? Well, if you recall, on the 5th of September through to the early part of November, Mars went through Cancer for 8 weeks, which is very unusual. And the reason for that is because of Mars going into the retrograde in Leo in December. Because Mars goes into a retrograde every 26 months. But actually that retrograde in Leo was relatively short, so it's going back into Cancer. It will be in retrograde through to the 24th of February and emerge back into Leo on the 18th of April. So if there is a New Year's resolution that you want to tackle that requires some extra stamina and self-discipline, Mars in the 6th house, despite the retrograde, can see you targeting it and working towards it. But if you're hoping to do better in a job, that could create a little bit of frustration. Just be aware of it. So the North Node moving on the 11th into your second solar house, augmenting that first lunar eclipse on the 18th of September, because the nodes mirror the eclipses, is another directional pull towards being conscious of what you value, your foundations, your worth, what you believe in, and also everyday money. But it also can be about food. So if you are thinking, the second house, you're thinking about being a little bit more disciplined about your nutrition and diet, particularly with Mars thrusting its way in the 6th house, that actually can be a point to try to refine and make progress, because the sign of Pisces, particularly with Neptune, may have seen you drawn towards some nefarious ways of escaping reality since 2012. It would be completely understandable. But by the end of January, the 29th, we have a sensational new moon in your sign. Because it angles to Jupiter, that electric energy, despite Jupiter being in a retrograde until the early days of February, is really going to give you quite the boost. Also, your modern ruler ends its retrograde the day after on the 30th. With Jupiter going direct at the start of February, things are starting to pick up. You're gaining traction. But also Venus makes its way at the start of February into the chattiest part of your scope. Could have people quite bewitched by some of your word power as February unfolds. But on March the 2nd, Venus goes into a retrograde. It is augmented by Mercury on March the 3rd. So you have two key players in House 3, those quick communications. But March the 14th sees the second of the eclipse series going between the signs of Pisces and Virgo, this one in Virgo, but it's opposite Saturn. If there is something that you really need to make some firm decisions around, Saturn will help you. Saturn gets a really bad press, but because of the duality of your sign, you can appreciate that tradition can be very important. So this is where Saturn can see you being a little bit more conserving in how you use resources. You could even find yourself, if you're very much into recycling or upcycling, really being inspired around those areas in the following 6 months. But March the 20th sees the spring equinox. The sun returns to Aries. It's the start of the astrological year. The energy from that is going to be awesome for you. You're going to see a pickup in the speed and the pace of life. But March the 27th sees Venus retrograde. into Pisces until the 12th of April, and it won't emerge from Pisces until the end of April. So that could be a period of time when you may have to cut back a little bit and find some economies. Certainly be more disciplined about eating calorific goodies. But March the 29th sees a fantastic solar eclipse. It is in Aries, and because Venus and Neptune are so close by, it could see you express your ideas with great delicacy but huge imagination, not least because on March the 30th Neptune moves to join Aries. So for the next just under 8 months, your ability to convey ideas can take on almost a mystical dimension. You know, if you are someone who has your own blog, or you work in a customer-facing environment, it's just going to be something about you that's rather outer-worldly that other people can be truly captivated by, which is absolutely lovely. Now, as I mentioned, on the 12th of April, Venus goes direct. But it's the 18th of April when Mars goes back into Leo, which is so delicious, because that is going to re-engage you directly with others, because Mars being in Cancer is very much about dealing with life's practicalities and being in some ways of service to others. Now you want to create your boundary, but if there is someone on your celestial field of vision that you're drawn towards, this gives you the push to go for it. Now, towards the end of April, Venus is approaching Neptune, but they link up in the first week of April. If you do have a date across that time, it could be quite an enchanting encounter. When Venus and Neptune are together, there definitely is the chance for some magic. There is also the chance for some distortion. So it's not the best of times to put someone on a pedestal if you've only just met them, but you could have quite the bewitching conversation. It may not even be romantic, but a meeting of minds or even souls is definitely possible. Now, on April the 27th, there is a new moon in your sector of home and family, but it's in a powerful clash with Pluto at the start of your sign. I feel that this could bring up some of the politics that Uranus has created since 2019 full time. If you recall, in the middle of May 2018, when Uranus first moved into Taurus, that was the seeding period, it clashed with Mars, which was on the anaretic degree in Capricorn. And even though Mars loves being in Capricorn, it's exalted, it then went into Aquarius, and the two were chaffing against each other right through to the middle of October. It was a really, really tricky period, particularly for home and family affairs or emotional affairs. There may have been quite a lot of inflammation of deep-held feelings. But on May the 25th, Saturn moves to join up with Neptune, linking back to Pluto in your sign. So you have a sextile. This is lovely stuff, but Saturn, your ruler, is in its full in the sign of Aries, which is about initiation. Saturn's about consolidation. So if you have ideas coming through the imaginative guise and prism of Neptune and initially of Venus, Saturn's going to test them out. Otherwise, you may find that some people are challenging you and suggesting that maybe some of your ideas are lacking a little bit of realism. But this is where the duality of your sign can be such an asset to you, because where some people can really get caught up with tripping the light fantastic, you can always be pretty down to earth in some way, which can be of great help. Now, May the 27th is fantastic. This is going to see a new moon in Gemini, but it's conjunct the ruler of Gemini. If ever there was a time to be flirty, playful, cheeky, perhaps even a bit naughty, your sense of humour will be in top form, and a wonderful opportunity to get out, mix and mingle and have fun. But on June the 9th, Jupiter makes its way into Cancer. So it leaves your 5th house, which hopefully has helped you to develop some creative strands in the previous year. It's going to go retrograde on the 11th of November, but it's going to be here for a year. And Jupiter loves being in Cancer. It's exalted here, but also Cancer's a feeling sign, but for you it's 6. If you are a compassionate person and you want to help people in some kind of practical way and use your nurturing skills in a way that helps them, that can be a huge opportunity in the following 12 months. June the 20th, however, sees the Sun travel into Cancer. We have the summer solstice, cardinal quadrant 2, the next 13-week period. Normally for you about practicalities, order, routines, but this one clashes with Saturn and also Neptune. 3v6. If you try to do too much, if you try to be too virtuous over the next month, you're going to end up actually not achieving as much as you would like. It's a time, therefore, to set yourself some realistic targets and work towards things in a systematic way, but don't scatter yourself too thinly. Then the 25th, the Cancer new moon, is also squaring up with Saturn and Neptune. So quite complex. Again, keep going forwards, prioritising. But July the 7th sees that stunning transition of Uranus into your air sign of Gemini. Wow. Because this arcs back to Pluto in a trine, but also arcs to Saturn and Neptune in a sextile. So it's a grand minor trine, a golden triangle. And of all the zodiac signs that can really be engaged by this, I feel it is yours because your 2 rulers are in the mix. And Pluto's right at the start of the sign of Aquarius. And we're seeing a huge shift in the way we all network, connect. And it's going to be a massive shift that's coming. But the truly massive shift will be in 2026, I feel. But over the next 4 months, as Uranus dazzles back towards Pluto, if there is something that you want to do that's very enterprising, that's very fresh, that maybe is more challenging to some people, have the confidence to go for it, shake things up. That more rock and roll side of your nature, Uranus, can come out. The more steady side of your nature, the American songbook of Saturn, is asking you to just choose your words with care, stay anchored in whatever you're trying that may be novel, and that's fair enough. And Neptune's saying, yeah, use as much imagination as you possibly can muster. But July the 18th sees Mercury go into a retrograde in your sector of relating. And we know that can create some crosswires, but also some opportunities. And the conduit for that is going to be the Leo new moon of the 24th of July, which forges an electric, dazzling link to Uranus, but also an opposition to Pluto in your sign. Really, this could be quite the month, despite that retrograde, which does end on the 10th of August. That unravels, and then that brings you to a period of the year which is much more to do with 8th house energy. So a lot of it is about the 2nd house. The 8th house is what you share with others, where you're most invested, where you're most devoted, what's transforming at a deep level. It's the Phoenix part of our chart, but obviously before the Phoenix we can have the endings of situations, and that part of your chart is really going to come sharply into focus on August the 23rd with the first of 2 Virgo new moons, but that squares up with Uranus. If you encounter someone who really doesn't like this fresh approach that you're taking, could even be rather jealous, may try to limit you in some ways, could be someone who's a little bit controlling, that kind of friendship or that kind of romantic relationship is not what you need. So on the 1st of September, as Saturn inverts back into your 2nd house, to be followed by Uranus's retrograde on the 6th of September, your 2 rulers are telling you to take charge of the situation. September the 7th, however, sees the repetition of the lunar eclipse which occurred on the 18th of September the year before, and this time Sun in an opposition with the Moon in Pisces, but close to the North Node. But then September the 21st is a supercharged solar eclipse. That solar eclipse takes you through the last months of the year and into the start of 26. But if you are someone who really wants to go forwards with some of these brilliant ideas you've been instigating, but you want to convert it into something tangible, the hard evidence of the flare, wow, that's quite the solar eclipse, because your traditional ruler Saturn is going to be the other end of the axis, making sure that you use your experience and knowledge and wisdom to make sure that whatever you are approaching or developing or investing in is going to be really thought through and future-proofed in a very thorough way. So that's one of the things with Saturn. It has such a bad press, but you know, Saturn is about experience, it's about knowledge. You know, it is the ruler of time. In Greek mythology, Chronos was its name, chronology. And so astrology is the measurement of the patterns of planets and how they impact us through the gravitational pull. So that is a very, very potent solar eclipse, and it takes us back to the year before, if you remember, when the whole process began with the lunar eclipse, but on the other side of the heavens. You will see how far you've come, but it's that north node in Pisces which is regulating your instincts in terms of what decisions you make. September the 22nd, the autumnal equinox, the third cardinal quadrant, and the sun returns to the wonderful Libra for you. An opportunity to think back to a year before when you had that breakout moment with the solar eclipse. If you've yet to have a vacation or a holiday, you'll certainly want to have one in the following 13 weeks. But on the 21st of October, the new moon in Libra does clash with Saturn in a quincunx. Important, therefore, if you are thinking of expansion, you're also aware of the cost, Saturn. The 22nd of October, however, Neptune returns after just under 8 months back to Pisces. On November the 8th, Uranus returns to Taurus, your home emotional sector. Now we are going to have through the 9th to the 19th of November a retrograde in your sector of friendship, and the 19th to the 28th in your sector of work. There could be a bit of a link. Things could get a little muddled. We do have on the 20th of November the Scorpio new moon, which is very much to do with success, except it's so late in the sign of Scorpio, it's clashing with Saturn and Neptune. You can see how Saturn and Neptune back in Pisces, they're like a metronomic influence throughout this year. Neptune can see you dream, perhaps be very inspired, but then has to be moderated by the strict master, or the strict mistress of Saturn, saying, but what about this detail? So even if you're shooting for the stars, those two are saying, but what's the plan? Good for them. We're going to see, as the year comes to a close, the new moon in Sagittarius on the 20th of December, but then a switch, the 23rd, the sun returns to the 12th house. And after a breathless year, it really wouldn't be a surprise if you did want to go back to that original instinct that the sun's conjunction with the moon gave you at the start of the year, that whatever happens, however exciting it is, however much you can sort out the ins and outs around your resources or your sense of value, there are going to be times when you do need to cocoon yourself away. It is an Aquarius thing to have that space from time to time and seclusion, but do it. But your expansion of your spiritual knowledge and your interest in healing and all its different strands is going to be a fantastically important part of this year. But it's a year essentially about you using your innovation, Uranus, in conjunction with Saturn, which is very much about preservation and conservation and finding a nice balance between the two, and also working with the Eclipse series to ensure that you can use enterprise but in a sensible way, because the solar eclipse as 2024 comes to a close could see you charge into the new year really in full flight. But it has to be quite tactical as well this year. And if you use your communications with passion, power, conviction and thought, you are definitely going to catch the imagination and attention of a lot more people. Have a great year, Aquarius. Take care.